fellow maintenance partners, and welcome to Harvey Furnishing's tutorial today on how to measure for Kainga curtains and tracks. With us today you've got Bob, our friendly installer, and Caitlin. We're from Harvey Furnishings and we're really happy to have you here. It is important to be aware of your surroundings, so remember to look out for dogs before entering the property. Alright, so now we're going to be looking at measuring the width of a window. And this one has no restrictions, so we're going to have a pair of curtains, one on either side. So Bob, if you could just measure the internal width, so that is inside architrave to inside architrave. Now you do not need to worry about past that because our team will automatically add 15% to those calculations. What have we got, Bob?
1100 millimeters.
Fantastic, so we're going to jot that down on the width of the sheet. Now, as I said, there are no restrictions in this particular window, so the team will automatically add 15% either side to the tracks. And then, Bob, how many curtains are we going to use on this window?
2, I believe.
2, so that'll be 1 to the left and 1 to the right. To start off with, we're going to work on the width. So Bob here's going to take his tape measure, and he's going to measure internally on the window frame. And what have we got here, Bob?
We've got 1625 millimeters.
1625 millimeters. Fantastic. Now, there are a few things to be aware of here. First of all, restrictions. Now, as you can see, we've got a nasty heat pump on the left-hand side. To eliminate this risk, we're going to have to note this as a restriction. So, Bob, could you please show us what measuring a restriction looks like?
Because you've measured the inside of your frame, you have to measure from the inside of your frame to where that restriction is, and it's 100 millimeters.
Fantastic. So we're going to put 100 millimeters in our restriction on our left-hand side. Now, as you can see, there is no restrictions on the right-hand side, so we're going to leave that area blank. For the number of curtains, this is something you're going to have to determine yourself. In this particular case, we've got a heat pump on the left, so one curtain stacking to the right is going to be the better option. Oh, Bob, what are you doing?
Measuring for the track.
That's a no-no. No, Bob, you know what happens when you measure past the inside of the architraves.
Oh dear.
We end up with too much track. This means we have to cut it down on site using a hacksaw. Not only is this a waste of materials, but this also can lead to serious injury from hacksaw cuts.
Yes.
So choosing how many curtains to put on each window. Typically, we would normally put a pair on each window, one to the left and one to the right. However, there are some exceptions to this. Bob, can you give me a couple of examples, please?
When we have a situation with an L-shaped window like this being another window at the side of the main window, yes, we have that situation, which this would get a pair of curtains, and this window would get one curtain stacking to this side of the window.
And the reason we like to do this is because we don't want too much of the window and light outside to be obscured by fabric. What's another scenario where we might use one curtain stacking to the side?
Doors, stacking sliding doors, where the door is all the way to one side and there's no room to stack the curtain out there as a pair, so you would have a one-way stack away from the opening door.
And another scenario for a one-way curtain stack, as we discussed earlier, was for any restrictions. So heat pumps, any immovable furniture, or any other restriction will stack the curtain away from that obstacle. Next, we're going to be looking at our height. Now there's two things to factor in with height. First of all, is there a sill? In this case, there is a sill. And so what Bob is going to do is he's going to measure from the top of the architrave, and this could be any size, to the top of the sill. What measurement do we have, Bob?
760 millimeters.
760 millimeters. So we're going to pop that down on our sheet. Now, Bob, what if we were going to measure to the floor?
Oh, well, okay. Put the tape measure on the carpet, or whatever the floor is, and measure to the top of the architrave. 2 meters and 30 millimeters. 2030.
Fantastic. All right, we've got a sill here, but it's very low to the ground, Bob. What are we doing in this scenario?
Aha, okay, well, Kainga Ora's instructions are if it's 300 millimetres or closer to the floor, we go all the way to the floor and not to the sill.
Okay, so we'll be measuring for a floor length drape in this case.
Yes, even though it's got a sill.
All right, so now we're going to look at measuring with an existing track, and we're going to do the drop. So Bob's going to measure from the top of that existing track to the top of the windowsill. And what measurement have we got there, Bob?
670 millimetres.
670 millimetres. Now with an existing track, as they're usually mounted about 5 to 10 mils down from the top of the architrave, we automatically add 15 mils to that finished length. So we're going to put down 685 mils.
Our admin team will add the additional 150 mil.
We're going to look at measuring from an existing track right down to the floor. So Bob's going to take his tape measure and he's going to go to the bottom of the floor, right to the top of the track there. What have we got, Bob?
2 metres.
2 metres. So now we're going to add that 15 mil like we did earlier to allow for the drop down of the track. And we've now got 2 metres and 15 mils, or 2015 millimetres. Now as we can see, the flooring is not yet down. So we're going to put a no for flooring so that we can make an extra allowance at our head office to make sure that the curtain is not going to be dangling on the floor. We're then going to ask the builders on site or whoever to have a look at the plans and decide whether or not the vinyl or carpet's going to be going down there. And we're going to note which one on the sheet. Bob, what are you doing?
I'm measuring for some curtains, Caitlin.
But don't you see, you haven't measured from the top of the track or the top of the architrave.
Oh dear, okay.
That's a no-no. What does this mean, Bob?
Makes them too short, Caitlin.
It does make them too short.
That brings us to the end of our demonstration, so now we will cover the key points from the video. First of all, width is taken from inside architrave to inside architrave. Our admin team automatically adds 15% to either side of the track for overhang, so you don't have to. Measuring for restrictions ensures that they are taken into account when the 15% is automatically added to avoid tracks being ordered too long and needing to be cut down to meet specs. Window drops need to be measured from the top side of the windowsill to either the top of the track, if existing, or the top of the architrave if there is no track. 15 mil is to be added to the finished drop if measuring from the existing track. If measuring to the sill, our admin team will automatically add a minimum of 150 mil to the finished length. If measuring to the ground, or if the sill is less than 300 mils from the ground, take a neat measurement and note the flooring. When assessing windows for numbers of drapes, think about the restrictions: heat pumps, doorways, minimal stack space, and maximising light through the windows.
Bye.